Hey everybody, welcome to my second live stream. Today we're going to be talking about 6 tests that you need to order. These are tests that I order with pretty well every single one of my clients. A lot of times we might order tests on top of this, but I find that 80% of people get really great results when you run these tests. You know what you're looking for. Your practitioner knows how to interpret them and give you proper protocols designed to rebuild the body. And then we're also going to cover some of the root causes too. So the tests that we're going to go over today are the organic acids test from Great Plains. We're going to go over the Dutch test. We're also going to go over a full blood panel, a copper zinc test from Great Plains. We're going to look at the GI map, and we're going to look at a para-wellness test. Now, I'm not going to be going into depth today on analyzing these tests and protocols, but I want to show you what is on these tests that make them so great and why you need to run them, why you want to go out, get your practitioner to run them. If you have a practitioner and they haven't suggested the test to you, it's probably because they weren't trained in how to analyze them properly. So you can get that practitioner to run them for you, or find a practitioner who is well versed in these tests. I cannot recommend these tests enough. They are awesome. I've had such great success with my clients. So for general liability right now, let's just say I'm not a doctor. I do not diagnose or treat disease. Anything that you hear today is for educational purposes only. Please talk to your doctor before making any changes to your diet, your supplement plan, your exercise. Just talk to your doctor for safety, especially to your medications. Now, I'm Sandy. I'm a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and whole body healing coach. So let's get into it. I really want to get through all these tests pretty quick, so it's just something that you can see, and then you can go and get these tests ordered. Now, the way I do it is I start off with an organic acids test, a Dutch, a full blood panel, and the copper zinc. I normally don't run them all in one go, because when you get when you get all those test results in at one time, there's going to be a lot of supplements for you to start, and it can be really overwhelming. It's also a big cost, especially if your practitioner isn't providing the tests at wholesale. It's going to be, a pretty big cost out of your pocket. So I normally run the organic acids test 1 month, the next month the Dutch, and the next month the full blood panel. It doesn't necessarily have to be in that order, but 1 a month is pretty good. It gives you a few weeks to get on your protocols. When you start supplements, it's good to go really slow, give your body a chance to get used to it, see if there's any reactions, find the right doses for you. So if you give yourself that time to do these tests, it just is going to be a lot easier for your body to handle. I throw the copper zinc in there at any time. It's really great to see what those levels are, because when you're having an imbalance in the copper zinc, it's going to really affect how much zinc you're taking, how much copper you're taking. It's going to affect a lot of the other supplements, multi-minerals. You're probably not going to be able to do if they have too much copper for you or too much zinc. And it's also going to show your ceruloplasmin. So you can throw that in at any time. It's just a quick, easy blood test that you can get done. Okay, so I'm going to turn my camera. Sorry, I'm trying. YouTube lives are a little new. I think it's that button. Hopefully that's not the end of the live stream button, because I've done that in the past. Okay, so there's my computer screen. So this is your Great Plains. Now, the Genova lab also offers the organic acids test. I use Great Plains because it gives more markers and it tests for oxalates, where the Genova doesn't. I also find the Great Plains test super easy to interpret. Okay, so this is page 1. Sorry about this up at the top. I really don't know how there. Oops, I fixed it, sort of. I'm trying to look through my phone at my computer. Okay, so if I click there we go. Okay, so this is page 1 of the Great Plains organic acids test. Now, a lot of practitioners, if they're not trained in the organic acids test, they run this and they will treat off of this. So oftentimes you'll see a lot of high yeast markers, you'll see a lot of high bacterial markers, and they'll just say, okay, you have a bacterial or yeast overgrowth, let's give you some antifungals or some antibacterials. And I don't do that. that is because we need to go after parasites and protozoa first. And the way I work is before I tackle any pathogen killing, I am going to work on rebuilding the body. So I don't want to be stressing the body anymore, trying to kill all this yeast and fungus, which this test actually doesn't have that much. I want to look at all the other pages. I kind of actually ignore this page unless I'm seeing super, super high levels that could possibly indicate like a really active clostridial infection, especially if there's a lot of diarrhea, then, you know, that is something to look into. But some few random high markers, it's not enough to really go right to the antifungals or the antibacterials. The other thing that we have to really consider when we're doing that, because a lot of practitioners do just go right to yeast and bacteria, is when you're taking the things to kill the fungus and the bacteria, you're also killing your good flora. So you're weakening the body even more. And the problem with that is parasites and protozoa produce a biofilm that the bacteria and the yeast are going to be hiding in. You're also going to be having other things feeding the infection like toxins and heavy metals. And until you get rid of all of those other things, the parasites, the protozoa, the heavy metals, the toxins, anything you take for this yeast and bacterial overgrowth is, one, it's going to cause resistance. Two, it's going to stress the body even more. Three, if it's pharmaceutical, it's going to cause a lot of damage to the liver. So you're just weakening the body further, tackling this before, you know, rebuilding the body and then going in the proper order and getting those parasites and protozoa first. So let's move on to page 2. Now, the reason the test doesn't quite look like this when you get it in, you'll actually see all your information at the top, but I had to kind of just snip everything out and show you the actual markers, because that's, you know, why you should be ordering these tests. Now, this is one of the reasons why we're going to get the Great Plains, not the Genova, is that you do have your 3 oxalate metabolites. Now, oxalates are nice, sharp little crystals that can form in your joints and your kidneys and your bladder. They affect the brain. They really can cause a lot of damage. So when you're seeing really high oxalate levels, it is something that you do want to address with your practitioner. Now, oftentimes what we'll see is an elevated oxalate. So we'll see this in the red. There'll be a little H beside it, and it might not be too high. That just means the person isn't actively excreting their oxalates. They're there, and when you start to reduce your oxalate load, you start to give your body some tools to detoxify and remove the oxalates, you'll actually see the number go up for the first while. So if you're running a regular organic acids test, you'll see the number maybe in the 200s. It might shoot up a little bit more as you start to detox, and then over time, because it can take quite a while. I actually had some severe oxalate issues from raw vegan diets and all sorts of craziness. It can take a year or more to detox the oxalates properly, and you want to do it slowly. It's not something you detox really quickly. All right, so the next part of the organic acids test are going to be your mitochondrial markers. So you have your glycolytic cycle monitors. So if you remember back from high school or university biology, that's your glycolysis. So how your body produces ATP. That's our building block. Our body takes protein, fat, and carbohydrates, puts it through cellular respiration, and it turns those molecules into ATP. That's the building blocks of life. So you have your Krebs cycle metabolites, you have your glycolytic metabolites. You could always open up a high school textbook and you'll actually see these cycles, and you'll see where all of these metabolites come out and where there's a problem. So it's pretty cool. And then you have some more mitochondrial markers here. Now this is a really important part next, the neurotransmitter metabolites. So we're seeing phenylalanine and tyrosine markers. So you have your dopamine, your norepinephrine, and epinephrine markers. And then you're seeing the ratio there. You're seeing your tryptophan metabolites. So you're going to be looking at indirectly measuring your serotonin. And then we have some toxic metabolites, the quinolinic acid and so on. Now, I did do an amino acid therapy course, which is all based on neurotransmitters and balancing your neurotransmitters. It goes really into depth in these on these pathways. So you can always check out my self-study courses. We're not going to go, too in depth here. I just want to really show you how cool these tests are and why you should get them. So we can work on balancing our neurotransmitters based off what we find on the organic acids test. Now on to the next page, we're seeing the folate markers. So this is your MTHF. How well are you using your folate? Are you deficient in your folate? And then we're seeing the ketone and fatty acid markers, which are again part of your mitochondria and your body's energy production. Now we're looking at, on the next page, we're seeing our nutritional markers. So on the organic acids test, it's not directly measuring the levels, it's measuring how much metabolites. So when your body converts and uses B12, for example, we're measuring how much is showing up in the urine. So I like to run it with the full blood panel so we can compare, okay, what are the levels in the blood versus what are we seeing the body using and coming up in the urine. So we've got B12, B6, B5, B2. These are all really important with your liver pathways, your mitochondria. We're seeing vitamin C, Q10, NAC, biotin. On the next page, we're looking at glutathione markers, the ammonia excess. So ammonia is quite toxic to the body. It also indicates some issues with your sulfur pathways. So if we're seeing a really high level, that's really great healing opportunity there. If this number 61 is high, it can indicate that you're having some issues with salicylates. And then we're seeing amino acid metabolites. Now, on the test itself, when you look at all the added pages on the explanation of the test, it says that low levels don't indicate poor protein absorption. But Dr. Kalish, who is one of the leading experts on the organic acids test, has found that when you do see a lot of zeros here, a lot of low levels, that by getting people on proper digestive enzymes, working on their stomach acid, and getting in some protein powder or some amino acid powders, that these numbers will go up. So I've also seen that too, where I'll see a lot of low levels on an organic acids test. A lot of, we would assume that there's problems with that there should be problems, and we're seeing a lot of low levels. We get some proper protein into the body that is absorbable, and we see the levels shoot up. So, and then at the very bottom, if you can kind of see it, I kind of cut it off. You've got the phosphoric marker, which indicates your vitamin D levels. So that is your organic acids test. Super cool test. I really recommend getting it because you could there's so many healing opportunities available. Now, a full blood panel. So these are all broken up into little pieces so that I could get it onto the, get it into the snip and so that you can actually read it. So the full blood panel that I like to run, I start off with a complete metabolic panel. So this is looking at your glucose. Do you have any blood sugar issues? We're looking at your kidneys. And then we're starting to look at your liver markers. We're seeing how acidic you are in your body. So all great healing opportunities there. Then we're seeing more liver markers, which is incredibly important. I do a lot of work on the liver pathways. And then the lipid panel is important to tell us how well is your bile flowing? Is there a lot of liver congestion? We definitely want to see these numbers in optimal ranges. We don't want to see them too low or too high. The complete blood count is important in that it's telling us, are you deficient in folate, B12? It really confirms the other markers that we see. And when we start supplementing with those nutrients, we'll actually see all of these levels go back into normal range. So it's really great to watch the progress as the body optimizes. The iron panel is really important. You would be surprised how many people just either get iron serum or ferritin. And you really can't address a low ferritin unless you confirm your iron serum is low, and you can't address an iron serum being low unless you confirm the ferritin, because you can have a really high iron serum, a really low ferritin. You can have a really high ferritin and a low iron serum. So you want to see at least those two tests. It's great to have the full panel to really get an understanding on how your body's using the iron. And a lot of times we do see iron toxicity. And to me, if you're above optimal range, for women it's 70 to 90, for men it's 90 to 110, that's a good time to go and give some blood, because iron in high amounts is quite toxic. Now, your thyroid panel, I go over it in the other YouTube video, but these are generally the tests that you want to get. So check out the other video. I actually go in depth and explain every single one of the tests and how to address the thyroid. And I'll post links to everything that I'm mentioning in the description below the video. Now, additional markers, the ones that are highlighted in yellow are the ones that you absolutely want to get. The other ones, a lot of doctors aren't even going to order it. They're not that important. The vitamin D is a really good marker to have. It does play a big role in your health if your vitamin D is really low. Not that I would go and start doing super high doses of vitamin D therapy without looking at your copper zinc test, making sure your ceruloplasmin level can support that. But it is part of the picture. Now, your homocysteine is one of those great markers that show whether you're over-methylating or under-methylating, and what is going on in that top of your phase 2 pathway with methylation. I go in depth in my liver self-study course, How to Heal Your Liver Naturally, with homocysteine and all of the phase 2 metabolites and how phase 2 works. And then your B12 is really great to have, and compare that with your organic acids tests to see, okay, what is my level in the blood versus what is going on and what is my body using and showing up in the urine on the oats. Now, here's the copper zinc test. It's really great in that it has the ceruloplasmin. It has the ceruloplasmin copper. So ceruloplasmin is your copper transport protein. So it's showing you, okay, how much ceruloplasmin is there, how much ceruloplasmin is bound to the copper, how much copper do you have in your serum, how much unbound, so non-ceruloplasmin copper do you have, and how much zinc serum. Now, right now, everybody seems to think they're copper toxic. It's one of those fads. It's like the Candida fad. There's a lot of those fads going around, but people think they're copper toxic when a lot of times they're not. So if you're copper toxic, you're going to see the non-ceruloplasmin coppers pretty high. You're probably going to see a low ceruloplasmin level. And then the low ceruloplasmin copper, because there's nothing available to bind to it. So you really want to get this test before playing around with your copper and your zinc levels. And there's a lot of people out there too that are just taking a ton of zinc to boost their immune system, and zinc is going to deplete your copper. So confirm with this test. It's not that expensive of a test, especially if you're getting it for wholesale from your practitioner. Now, the Dutch test, one of my favorite tests and the only test that you really want to be running for your sex hormones and your adrenals. If we look at the first page of the test, we're seeing your total estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. Now, optimal levels are more so in the middle of the dial. And then we're seeing the daily free cortisol pattern. Now, if you got a saliva cortisol test, this is basically what you would be seeing. You would be missing this little value that I'm covering with my hand. So it's showing you your waking, your morning, your afternoon, and your nighttime. Now you can check out my adrenal self-study course. I go in depth on how to analyze the cortisol portion of your Dutch test. But here I just want to tell you that this is the important marker, because oftentimes we see people who think they have adrenal fatigue. So this green dial is all the way over here. But guess what? This metabolized cortisol is through the roof. So their body is under a lot of stress. Their adrenals are working perfectly fine, but the body is inactivating the cortisol, because cortisol breaks the body down, and long-term high cortisol causes disease and damage. So the body will inactivate the cortisol, but it's still being produced. So a lot of times people, they just run the saliva panel, they get that really low free cortisol, and they start doing a bunch of adrenal boosters. They start doing some adrenal glandulars. They might even start taking some corticosteroids to boost that up. And guess what? Their adrenals are perfectly fine. So get the Dutch test to check your metabolized cortisol level, and check out the adrenal training video that is free on YouTube. You can check it out on my channel, or you can go to my website, motivatedtoheal.com, and I will post the links for you, and you can get a really full analysis of this portion. Now the next page, it's a little bit smaller because I wanted to fit it all in, but it's actually showing up pretty good. So you're seeing, we saw the total DHEA on the other page. Here we're seeing DHEAS, so you can see how well your body is sulfating. That's one of the liver pathways. You've got your testosterone. And then what's really cool about the Dutch test is your sex hormone metabolites. So this is a female test. So the male test is going to show more information on the male sex hormones, whereas the female test doesn't. So this is showing you how well are you metabolizing these your androgens. So if this alpha pathway was really high, you'd really want to address that, because that means your body is taking and metabolizing your androgens down a toxic pathway. Now, and then we see E1, we see E2, we see E3, and the cool thing about the Dutch test, again, is we get it broken down into the individual metabolites. You can see this person has a really great liver pathway breakdown of her sex hormones. Her liver is doing a great job. Oftentimes we'll see this red is really high. That's a toxic estrogen. We definitely don't want that. Or we'll see the blue, which is really high. It's not as toxic, but again, it's indicating inflammation in the gut and really giving us some healing opportunities. And then we're seeing, okay, how well are you methylating? So it's a really amazing test. You're not going to get that on a saliva panel. Now, I skipped over one of the pages because a lot of the pages are just numbers that show up on the charts, and we might as well just look at the charts, and I don't want to spend forever on the Dutch test. So now we have some new added markers that Dutch has put in. They've actually taken away the dopamine metabolite as of a couple weeks ago, because they were having trouble with their machine. So the machine wasn't functioning. Dopamine metabolite as of right now is not on the Dutch test. They probably will have that back up and running. Now the melatonin is a good marker to get, because that indicates not only how your levels are in your brain, but what's going on in your gut. Melatonin is actually found a lot in your gut, and it's needed for a healthy gut. So if it's really low, you definitely want to get some melatonin support in there. Mind you, it's not for everybody, because some people just don't tolerate it. Now you're getting some oxidative stress markers. They've got the B12, the B6, the glutathione, the norepinephrine, and the serotonin metabolite from the organic acids test. These are the exact same markers, these ones right here. I still run the organic acids, because you guys saw just how many markers are on the oats test versus these few markers. Like this doesn't show how high your quinolinic acid is. And as of right now, there is no dopamine marker. But one thing that's really great is if you run the organic acids test first, and then a month or two later, you're running the Dutch, you could see your progress if your levels are starting to change. So I think that's really cool that they did put in those markers. Okay, so that should bring us to the GI map. Now, the first test that we did, the organic acids test, the Dutch test, the full blood panel, that's all the rebuilding phase. So I work on that normally for 3 months. It can take longer for some people who are having a lot of reactions to supplements, but I do that before going to the GI map. So you need to get your sex hormones, your adrenals, your neurotransmitters, your liver, your thyroid, your kidneys. All of that needs to be working at optimal levels, or at least supported, before you start to break down your body and go after these root causes, because when you do a proper gut protocol, it is going to be really stressful. So you need to have that support system in place, and you need to get your body as strong as possible. So the GI map is one of my favorite tests to run. It is a nice DNA stool analysis. It has a lot of markers. Now, if I had to pick between the GI map and the Para-Wellness test, I would prefer to run both at the same time, 1 day apart, 1 or 2 days apart after a biofilm buster. But I would actually pick the Para-Wellness test first, because it normally shows us more parasites and protozoa than what the GI map does. And like I know I stress it all the time, but we want to get rid of the parasites and the protozoa and their biofilm before tackling bacteria and fungus. Now, I have never not found parasites and protozoa when I run these two tests together. But we'll go over the GI map first, because that's what's first in my slideshow. Now, the GI map has a ton of markers. So the bacterial pathogens that are there. So you're looking at Campylobacter, C. diff. You've got Salmonella. I'm not going to read them all off because you guys know how to read. The parasite pathogens, you've got Crypto and Giardia. Where's my little arrow? You've got some viral pathogens. I love the H. pylori panel that they do, because you're looking at the virulence of the H. pylori. How much problems is it causing in the body? Then you've got your normal bacteria flora that you are going to work eventually on getting balanced after you've cleared your parasites and your protozoa. Now, I think this is a retest from one of my clients after we did a parasite and protozoa panel. So I think it's all pretty clear. We hadn't moved on to the bacteria yet. So then it's showing your opportunistic bacteria, your possible autoimmune triggers. You're getting in fungus, more viruses. You're getting in a full panel of lovely parasites. So I think this person prior to actually had blasto. So we did clear that. I just went into some random client files and I pulled up some tests and took a bunch of pictures on my lovely snippy tool down here so that I could show you guys. And then it's also looking at worms. So technically, like, parasites compose of worms, which are the ones that you see, and protozoa, which are the ones that are microscopic. And it's more common for people to have the protozoa. Mind you, I just did find a positive test for roundworms in an adult just actually yesterday, I believe, came back. Now, some intestinal health markers. So we've got some digestion markers, some bioflow markers. You're looking at how well is your body reabsorbing your estrogen. You're looking at your secretory IgA markers. So that is your immune response. Are you having a response to gluten? So your anti-gliadin, inflammation markers. And then you're looking at some antibiotic resistant gene phenotypes. So that is the GI map. It is a really big test. And then the Para-Wellness test doesn't, it's basically just a page with your results. So you get, it comes with your client name. He tells you whether there was anything in your urine, and he tells you whether there's anything in your stool. So this person actually had Cryptosporidium, which is one of those pain in the butt ones to get protozoa to get rid of because it loves to hide in your gallbladder. And then they had another protozoa and a little bit of yeast. And after, I didn't show the whole report because he goes into detail on all the little, he just explains a lot and it just goes on and on. So I just wanted to show you that yes, it is possible on this Para-Wellness test to find protozoa, and that's why I love to run it. Prefer to run it with the GI map, but a lot of times financially it can become expensive. The Para-Wellness test you can actually order from parawellnessresearch.com. It is $295, I believe. And the GI map is normally covered by insurance. And if it's not covered, it really will depend on your practitioner how much you pay. So those are the tests that I would run. Organic acids, Dutch test, full blood panel, copper, zinc. Work on rebuilding and rebalancing your body. At the same time, you should be working on finding a really balanced diet, whole food, balanced diet, not an extreme elimination diet. Support the body. Don't break it down further with extreme dieting. You get into some walking, some yoga, some stress reduction exercises. Not go and work out and kill yourself when you're sick. And then you also want to work on your mindset. So that normally takes people about 3 months, sometimes a little bit longer, and then we're moving into this gut testing. Now, why did I not include heavy metal testing? That's because most people, when you run your heavy metal tests, will come up showing that they have none. It will actually show that the levels are really low. So until you start detoxing metals, you're probably not going to see very much on your test. So that is why it's not included on one of the 6 must-have tests that I think you need to run. And why isn't food sensitivity testing on it? Well, I used to do a lot of food sensitivity testing, and what I found was, and a lot of people don't like this, but it is kind of a waste of money. It is incredibly expensive. Every test is going to tell you different things that you're sensitive to, and your food sensitivities change every 3 to 6 months. So unless you're having an extreme reaction, immediate reaction to a food, what I have found is that the more balanced diet, whole food diet, varied diet that you can eat and focus on these root causes, rebuilding, rebalancing, you're actually going to have more success and be able to incorporate a lot more food. So I used to not be able to eat, more than a handful of foods. There was maybe 5. And I spent years on those elimination diets, and it just caused more harm than good. And I realized that I needed to start allowing myself to eat more food because it was really causing a lot of isolation and negative thought patterns and a negative relationship with the food. So I started incorporating back in more food and just focusing on a balanced whole food diet. Yes, I still had treat meals. I actually didn't cut out gluten. I did in the beginning, but I didn't get any results. So I added gluten back in. I added in a little bit of dairy. I just brought the levels down, reduced the stress, and I went after these root causes and working on rebuilding my body. And I just find that why put the money to the food sensitivity test that might give you relief for a month or 2, but your food sensitivities are going to change? Then you're going to be spending more money on more food sensitivity testing to see what's changed. When put the money here, put the money on these tests. Start working on your liver, which is going to be causing a ton of your food sensitivities. When your phase 2 and phase 3 pathways aren't functioning properly, you're going to run into sensitivities. And then, work on your gut, put your energy there, stay balanced with your diet, and you're going to get a lot more success in your health. And I have clients come to me who have been on elimination diets for years. And the first thing we normally do is add in more food. And they might go through a week or 2 where they feel worse, but after that, they start to feel a lot better. They start to feel like a normal human being where they can actually go out and enjoy life. And we start working on these root causes, and those sensitivities really do disappear. So I hope you guys find a practitioner, get those tests ordered. If you are looking for a practitioner, you can go to motivatedtoheal.com, click on work with me. I will put the link in the description. I definitely would order these tests for you, and I do provide my clients with the testing at wholesale cost. So I am going to say goodbye because I can't see any comments. Maybe I'll try to see if I can find the comments. Nope, that says mute microphone. This might be the comment button. Show live chat messages. If I turn it off, yeah, see, it's not working. I really need somebody to show me how to get this to work on my phone, or I should invest in a better camera, but yeah, it's probably not going to happen anytime soon because technology just isn't my thing lately. I'm just like done. I need... Ugh. So I hope you guys have a really great weekend. I am super getting so excited, like a kid in going to Disneyland or Christmas, because next week I'm hopefully going to find out the sex of my baby. You can see my little baby bump going on. Oh my goodness, it's getting big. But I'm really starting to enjoy pregnancy. I can feel the baby now, especially when I lay on my back, which I don't lay there very long, but when I do lay on my back, I can really feel the baby moving. So it's super fun, super exciting time. And I'm going to go live in my Facebook group next Thursday to do a Q&A, since I can't figure out how to get the comments on the YouTube live, but I will try to get somebody to explain it to me before the next YouTube live, which will probably be in a couple weeks. I want to go over the liver phases so that I have that on my YouTube channel for people to go and check out as a reference. So I hope you guys have a great weekend. I don't even know how to end the live stream. Maybe this button. Take care. I'll figure it out in a second. Bye. There we go.